Muito boa noite, povo da quarentena. Hoje uma quarentena session, sessão extra, porque finalmente, acredito eu, espero eu, que vai rolar agora a Quarentena Sessions com Mark Hummel, um dos maiores gaitistas da atualidade, e isso já desde a década de 70. O Mark Hummel está na estrada já há muito tempo, tocando com as maiores lendas do blues. Infelizmente era para ter sido na quarta, mas houve uma falha de comunicação e acabou não rolando. O Mark foi muito gentil, me ligou, pediu desculpas, e ele disse que entendeu errado, e obviamente que eu acredito. Afinal, se ele tivesse feito de sacanagem, ele simplesmente não teria me dado um retorno. Então, gente, eu fico muito feliz porque eu já pude entrevistar o Mark Hummel uma vez. Isso eu acho que já está lá para 2010 ou 11, talvez 10 ou 11, já tem um bom tempo. Não, perdão, 2014. E de lá para cá muita coisa mudou, né? Ele gravou mais discos, perdão. Ele fez novas parcerias e o Coluna Blues Rock também passou a crescer e falar também de outros estilos musicais e a conhecer mais a história do blues. Pois bem, estou aqui esperando o Sr. Mark Hummel. Enquanto isso, aqueles avisos que não fazem mal a ninguém. Hoje nós tivemos uma live muito bacana com o Ivan Márcio. Se você não viu, vai lá no YouTube, Coluna Blues Rock 2.0, já está online, já está disponível as duas partes da live com o Ivan Márcio. O senhor Mark Hummel is in the house, so I'm gonna call him right now. Enquanto o senhor Mark provavelmente deve ter entrado e tomar um golinho de cachaça, mas enquanto isso dou aqueles recados marotos. Pois bem, amanhã, sábado, Quarentena Sessions com o Roberto Lessa, diretamente de Fortaleza, Ceará. O cara toca demais. Eu adoro o som do Roberto Lessa. Vejam no Spotfy tanto o Roberto Lessa como Gumball Blues. Ambos trabalhos sensacionais. Domingo teremos o mestre do slide, o senhor Marcos Otaviano. O cara é uma lenda do blues da guitarra do Brasil. E segunda-feira vou falar ao final da nossa Quarentena Sessions Extra, porque é uma surpresa muito bacana e é uma surpresa que vem dos Estados Unidos. Segunda e quarta teremos nomes americanos do blues, ambos nomes muito tradicionais, diga-se de passagem. Vou tentar fazer o contato novamente. Agora ele caiu. Pois bem. Bem, pelo menos eu já vi que ele existe aqui no Instagram, porque ele está com o Instagram, a conta da mulher dele. Ele deve ter tido algum tipo de problema com a internet, porque agora ele não está mais aqui. Mas pelo menos ele deu as caras, né? Pois bem, na semana que vem eu ainda vou anunciar mais. Segunda-feira, com certeza, vai ser um americano. Terça-feira, posso adiantar, será o Sérgio Rocha, guitarrista aqui do Rio de Janeiro, de rock. Quarta-feira, teremos essa surpresa norte-americana. Quinta-feira, nós teremos uma gaitista, uma moça, uma linda moça, diga-se de passagem, diretamente de Buenos Aires. Ela toca muita gaita, muito blues. Vai ser muito bacana. E sexta-feira, quem vai ser? Não sei ainda. Pois bem, minha sogra acaba de entrar. Lorenzo, fiquei triste com a derrota do The Doors na Copa. Eu também fiquei. Eu pensava que o The Doors fosse fazer a final com o Creedence. Mas, vida que segue. Agora, vai ser foda arrumar gente para tocar Grand Funk se o Grand Funk for campeão, né? Vai ser difícil, cara. Não é qualquer um que toca Grand Funk, não. E Grand Funk, se parar pra pensar, Se tocar um The Doors, People Are Strange, no violão, ok. Grand Funk é um som pesado, um som sujo. Para tocar um candango no violão, vai ser brabo. Mas, enfim. Lembrando que amanhã vai ser a primeira semifinal da Copa Tio Sam, apenas bandas americanas. Amanhã começa com Creedence Clearwater Revival e Allman Brothers Band. Enquanto o Sr. Mark Hummel não volta aqui à live, vão falando aí. Quem que vocês preferem? Allman Brothers, Creedence? Vão falando aí. Deve ser tipo tocar Dead Kennedy sozinho. Deve ser. É uma boa analogia. Tocar Dead Kennedy sozinho deve ser complicado, né, bicho? Enfim, enquanto o Sr. Mark Hummel não entra, vão falando aí. Allman Brothers ou Creedence? Eu tenho a minha banda favorita, mas eu não vou falar, porque eu quero parecer imparcial. Bruno Galo, do Galo Power. Eu não conheço ele. Ellen, eu tenho que procurar. Vou até anotar aqui. Todas essas indicações que vocês me dão, eu anoto, tá? O Júlio Caldas da Bahia foi indicação. Tive outras indicações aí também. Mas vamos ver. A live está começando a encher. E, novamente, o Sr. Mark Hummel não aparece. Mas, enfim, ele apareceu aqui e saiu. Tem que falar, dar um oi aqui na live. Dá um oi. Essa aqui é a futura cantora de blues.
Eu gosto de blues agora.
Tá, agora deixa. Agora, Sr. Mark Hummel, me chama. Filha, cara. Vamos lá. Silêncio.
Say. Can you see
Hello,
me?
Mr. Hummel.
How are you, Hugo?
Fine. Thank you so much for your kind invitation.
You bet. Can you see me all right?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Sir, perfect.
Good. Well, I'm sitting in my backyard.
Yeah, beautiful day.
Beautiful day here.
Are you from California, right?
I was born in Connecticut on the East Coast. And then when I was a baby, we moved to Los Angeles.
Okay. Okay. And you're in LA right now?
No, right now I moved to the Bay Area in 1973, San Francisco area. So
okay.
That's where I've lived since 1973.
Nice. So nice. Again, Mr. Hummel, thank you so much for your kind attention with Coluna Blues Rock. I try always drink the best blues of the world, and now you with us in Brazil.
Well, thank you. I love Brazil.
Yeah, we did. So sorry, my pen go down. We did an interview a long time ago, maybe 2014, maybe.
I was going to say it was probably longer than that.
Yeah.
Was it in Brazil?
No, it was through email.
It was through who?
Email.
Oh, email. Okay. Right. Oh,
yeah.
Was it for a magazine?
It was for my website, okay. colunabluesrock.com.
Right.
So a friend of your friend, Big Chico, sent a big hug to you.
Okay, well, tell Chico hello.
And Ivan Marcio also.
Who?
Ivan Marcio.
Okay, I think I know him too.
From the Prado Blues Band.
Right. Yeah. He's a great guy. Igor's great.
Great guy. So let's talk about music. How was your first contact with music? It was through blues or rock and roll?
It was really through rock and roll. I got into music as a kid. I mean, when I was a little kid, we heard the Beatles and I heard a lot of soul music and stuff growing up as a really, you know, when I was like 8 or 9 years old, we had babysitters that would play, they'd play soul music, R&B music all the time, because I grew up in a place called East LA in Los
Yeah.
Angeles. And it was mainly Mexican American, and all they listened to was R&B and blues. So
Right.
I heard Jimmy Reed, I heard Wilson Pickett, I heard Hank Ballard and the Midnighters, you know, kind of everything. James Brown, you know, Slim Harpo, they play everything. So that was really my introduction to music. And then when I was about probably, you know, 12 or 13, I got, you know, more into rock music. I went to my first rock concert when I was 13, and that was like 1968. And I think I went to go see Big Brother and the Holding Company, but they didn't come on till so late that I had to leave before then because I had a babysitter I went with. She was basically my chaperone because I was pretty young back then, and so I think I saw like Buddy Guy and Junior Wells and the Byrds and Mothers of Invention, and um Albert King was on that day. Country Joe and the Fish, who's another guy
Yeah.
friends with Joe now. I see him all the time. Um, all kinds of people for $3.
Nice. So
Yeah,
nice. Country Joe is a very fine human being.
he's a
He's
great
so
guy.
polite. I
He's a,
did an interview once with him, and he was so nice with me.
yeah, he's a wonderful person. Yeah,
Yes.
he's a very good
So,
friend of mine. I talk to him every day pretty much. So yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah.
yeah. Which musician or band did you listen to and made you want to learn harmonica?
You know, the first people I heard were really more the rock harmonica players. I mean, you know, I first heard you know, Cream and Jack Bruce, the bass player, would play harmonica, and then later on I heard John Mayall, and then I heard Paul Butterfield, and then I heard uh, um, James Cotton and Sonny Terry and Brownie McGhee were the first guys I ever saw in a nightclub. Um, I saw James Cotton and Charlie Musselwhite a few months later after that. I saw each one of them. Uh, and then, you know, I heard War was really big in LA, the band War, Lee Oscar. So
Yeah.
I saw him early on and learned a lot of his stuff. And uh, Jay Giles' band had Magic Dick. I mean, it's kind of cool because all these guys are friends of mine now, you know,
Well,
almost all these guys.
unbelievable.
So yeah, it's
Unbelievable.
pretty
Unbelievable.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I talk to all those guys all the time, but yeah, I mean, I just got into harmonica, and I got into blues really heavily. Little Walter became kind of my main influence, and Junior Wells, James Cotton, Sonny Boy Williamson. Then later on, I heard, you know, I got into Jimmy Reed more, and Junior Parker, and so many different guys.
I read in the magazine that Charlie Musselwhite helped you a lot in the beginning of your career.
Well, I didn't meet Charlie till about 1970. 76, something like that. So the first time I saw him was probably 72 or 73. So I didn't really get to know him till about 1980 is when we became more friends.
Okay.
But, you know, I mean, yeah, he's helped me over the years with a bunch of different things. He got me hooked up with Seidel harmonicas. He's been on a couple of my different records. He basically really helped on the Remembering Little Walter record too. I don't know if you're familiar with that record, but
Yes. Yes,
he had a
Cam.
lot to do with making that happen.
Yes.
You know, so.
The California blues have a different swing. Why does this happen?
You mean why does it swing more?
Yes.
What I attribute it to is that in the 1940s and 50s, a lot of the blues out here was much more combos that had piano, upright bass, saxophone, a guitar, almost like, Lowell Folsom or T-Bone Walker type guitar player. And so it was much more those kind of bands really that were popular in this area. And I think I know when I started playing in blues clubs out here, there were almost no Chicago blues, players, like older black guys that played in the Chicago blues style. Almost all of the guys that I met played in more of a T-Bone Walker or B.B. King kind of style. And so you were kind of forced to play more in a jump blues sort of style, every day I have the blues, or, just that T-Bone Walker. I mean, it was much more about that here.
It was something more like Caledonia, Lou Jordan.
Yeah, Louis Jordan and Amos Milburn, Jimmy McCracklin, all those guys were the really popular. Roy Milton, they were the really popular people out on the West Coast. So I kind of got influenced by that. It took me a while to get influenced by them, but there was almost a thing where almost every band had sax players playing with it. So I kind of started playing more in that kind of more of a saxophone horn section kind of thing. And I had heard Lee Oskar do it in the band War, and that kind of influenced me towards, playing more with a saxophone than just, as a Little Walter style guy. But I mean, I was always into Little Walter. Little Walter swung like mad.
Yes.
He was a real swing player, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. The Blues Survivors was a band formed in the 70s alongside Johnny Waters. Could you talk first about Johnny?
Well, the way I met Johnny is I was actually at a jam session at Eli's Mile High Club in Oakland. And I went to some jam session there, and Johnny was up on stage, and he was singing Muddy Waters, Country Boy. And I just watched him and I went, wow, this guy's actually playing Chicago blues. I'd never heard any of the older black guys really playing Chicago blues. So I immediately latched onto him and just said, hey, let's play some together. And he was like, yeah. So we jammed a couple numbers there, and we did some Muddy or Jimmy Rogers or something like that. And then about maybe a few months later, a guy named J.J. Jones, who was another guy around here, he called me up and he goes, hey, I'm starting a band with Johnny Sandifer, because that was his real name. He goes, we call him Johnny Waters now. And so I told him, yeah, I love Johnny. He goes, well, why don't you get a rhythm section together for us? So I was like, okay, I'll try to get, a bass player and drummer. And I found a couple guys. And we started jamming, and the next thing we had the Blues Survivors. And we had the house gig down at Eli's Mile High Club. And that only lasted a month or two before JJ kind of quit the gig, but started another band to play there instead of us. So me and Johnny kept the band going, and we got a guy named Sonny Lane. We got Sonny to come in and play with us instead. And so it was much more of a Chicago blues band when we had Johnny and Sonny, because they played together forever. I got a cat outside with me that's probably going to make noise.
Okay, that's okay. So could we say he was your godfather of blues, Johnny?
Well, I'd been playing in blues bands around here before that. I'd actually played with quite a few people prior to playing with Johnny. I'd played with a guy named Cool Papa. He was the first guy I ever played with out here. And then later on, I got hooked up with Sonny Rhodes, if you know who Sonny is. And then after Sonny, I started playing with a guy named Boogie Jake for about a year. And Boogie Jake was Little Walter's cousin. And so that really excited me, and I started a band with him. And then not long after that fell apart. That's when I met Johnny. So that all happened in a span of about 3 years, maybe, 3 or 4
Okay.
years.
Yeah, you idealized Mark Hamill's blues harmonica blowout. Could you explain to Brazilian public what is the project?
Well, it's something I started in 1991, and I kind of did it because there was a guy around here, a guy named Tom Mazzolini, that put on the San Francisco Blues Festival, and he had something he called Battle of the Blues Harmonicas. And so he had me on like one time. So I thought, well, if he's going to do that, I'm going to start doing my own. So that's kind of how it started. Is I started doing my own about 91 when he stopped doing his as often. And so I started doing mine in 91 and did one show. I just had Rick Estrin on the show, and a friend of mine named Dave Earl, and then another harmonica player named Doug J that lives back east. And I think Rusty Zinn was playing guitar in my band, and Jimmy Pugh was on keyboard. So we had a good little band, and the gig was a big success on a Sunday night. And so the club owner where we did it in Berkeley said, well, this was a big success. Let's do this every year. So that was kind of how it started. I didn't plan on doing it every year. It was just kind of something I tried, and it worked out good. And so we started doing it every year after that. Unfortunately, about 4 or 5 years later, the guy got murdered, the guy that owned the nightclub. And so I moved it to another club, and then eventually moved it to Yoshi's in Oakland in the year 2000. And so I did it every year, but it took about 3 clubs before we kind of finally found a home. And I've had every player you can think of on it. I've had John Mayall and Huey Lewis, Charlie Musselwhite, James Cotton, Carrie Bell, Lazy Lester, Billy Boy Arnold, Snooky Pryor, Kim Wilson, Rod Piazza, Rick Estrin. I mean, everybody you can think of, Paul
All the
Osborne, Jerry
dinosaurs.
Portnoy. We had Jerry Portnoy and Magic Dick and Lee Oscar on the one last year, which we did in 2006 as well. So I've had all kinds of people. I've had a lot of great guitar players too on it. Everyone from Duke Robillard to Anson Funderburg, Little Charlie Beatty, Rusty Zinn's played more of them than anybody. Steve Freund, on and on. Junior Watson. Yeah, everybody's played these things. John Primer.
John Primer also.
Yeah. John
Nice.
Primer. Dietrich Farr was on it as a singer a couple of years ago. Billy Boy Arnold's been on at least 10 tours, I bet. James Cotton was on 5 tours. Kim Wilson was on 5 tours. Charlie Musselwhite's probably been on 5 tours. So these are always tours. They're not just one date. It's always up and down the West Coast. And I've done them out east. I've done them on the East Coast a number of times. I've done them all the way up to Canada. I've done them in Europe before. So I've done them all over. Midwest.
Please, came to Brazil.
I'd love to. Just nobody seems to want to pay the money. Oh my God, these are expensive. They're expensive shows to do,
Yeah, unfortunately. The Golden State Lone Star Review is an amazing band, amazing band. In the original formation was attended by little Charlie Bett. Unfortunately, he passed away a short time ago. Mm-hmm. Could you talk about the band?
Well, Anson Funderburg and Charlie were the guitar players in that band. And then I always had Wes Starr on drums from Austin and R.W. Grigsby on bass from they're both from Rome, Georgia originally. So initially, I actually was playing with the rhythm section before I got Charlie and Anson into it. That was in 2010, I started playing with the rhythm section. In 2011, I started working with Charlie, and and RW, the bass player, was also in that. Marty Dotson was playing drums with me most of that time. And then eventually I proposed the idea of Charlie and Anson together to each of them, and they both agreed to give it a try. And we started that in 2012, the end of 2012. So I'd already been playing with Charlie for about a year and a half at that point. And so we went out and we did a European tour, and we did some East Coast dates at the end of the year. And then starting in 2013, we just pretty much did 120 to 160 dates a year for about 4 years in a row. And to be real honest with you, the end of 2016, that was the end of the year. Charlie, retired from the band, and I had a heart attack. So I sort of slimmed down how much traveling I was doing after that. But we kept it going with a guy named Mike Keller.
Yes.
And now I'm thinking of adding Rusty Zinn into it with Anson. Because I really liked working with those two guys together. That's a really good combination, those two.
Yes. You produced a tribute album to Little Walter with many harmonica legends. Could you talk about the project?
Well, that was something that I had done in 2012. The original tour was not with a couple of the guys on the original tour weren't on the album. Like Curtis Salgado was on the original tour. I ended up hiring James Harmon since Bruce Siglar didn't really agree to let Curtis do more than I think a song and a half or something. So I got James Harmon to fill in for Curtis. Originally I had Billy Flynn on it, and I think Billy Flynn was booked during the time we did the recording for that. So I got Nathan James to fill in for him. But everybody else that was on it was on the original tour in January of 2012. And that was Billy Boy Arnold, Charlie Musselwhite, Sugar Ray Norsha, myself, and then James Harmon did the record. And I had June Core on drums. I had R.W. Grigsby on bass, Nathan James, and little Charlie Beatty on guitars.
Nice. So nice. Nowadays...
By the way, that got nominated for a Grammy.
Yes, it's true. That's true.
And it also got 2 blues awards too.
Yes.
We won
Congratulations.
Best album and best traditional album.
It's an incredible album.
Yeah, I'm real proud of that record.
Yeah. We all have proud of this album. It's amazing.
Well, thank
you.
You
Also played with Mark Hummel and the Deep Basement Shakers. Could you talk about the band?
Well, that's a band that I started working with the Deep Basement Shakers about maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. And it was really kind of just something that sort of happened, right place, right time. I ran into the piano player on a gig. He was playing guitar on a gig that I was on, and we just started talking, and he said, would you ever be willing to do something with me on piano? And I said, sure, I'd try something like that. And a couple months later, he called me up and he goes, you want to play this gig in San Francisco, just me and you? And I said, I'd try it. And so I did it. And then he said, well, you ought to get together with this rubboard player that I got, because he plays a washboard and he's got a suitcase bass drum. And so we started just rehearsing at the washboard player's house. And we just started playing tunes and doing a bunch of the old kind of bluebird type blues, which I'd been doing for quite some time at that point. But with the rubboard player, it really gave a different kind of feeling to it. And so we recorded some stuff back in, I think it was 2018, we recorded some stuff. And then we came back and recorded some other stuff, maybe the beginning of 2019. I forget the dates. I think it was maybe summer of 2018 and then January of 2019. That's when we recorded all the stuff on that record. And
Yes.
I think we might have finished up with a couple tracks at the very end, you know, because we needed a couple more.
Yes. Speaking of albums and records, your last album, Wayback Machine, is excellent.
Well, thank you.
Very nice album. Could you talk about the record?
Well, that's the same record that the Deep Basement Shakers are on.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. All those sessions that I did with those guys ended up being Wayback Machine.
Okay.
So they're all over that. They're on pretty much the whole album, I think, except for maybe there's 3 songs at the very end that are just me and Joe Beard, and Kid Anderson is drummer. Alex Pedersen play on, I think, 1 number. So we did that stuff in I think that was in June 2018 as well. So I did all that stuff around the same time period with both Joe Beard and the Deep Basement Shakers. But yeah, it's really old time blues is what I'm doing on there. And then I got Billy Flynn to play guitar on some of that stuff too.
And I love one song of this album, Hello Stranger. It's a very nice, yeah.
That's
excellent.
That's an old Sonny Boy Williamson song, and I did more of the version that a guy named Baby Boy Warren did. And on the original, he has Sonny Boy Williamson playing harp on the original. The other Sonny Boy, Rice Miller.
The second, right?
The second. He plays on the original version of the Baby Boy Warren Hello Stranger. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about Brazil's harmonica players?
Well, I think there's more interest in harmonica in Brazil than any other country I've ever been to. You know, it seems like Brazil and Argentina have harmonica players coming out of the woodwork. They're everywhere. You know, harmonica is very loved in Brazil.
Yes.
And it was really a thrill to come down and meet all the harmonica players down there. And I'd already known guys like Marcio Abdo, and I knew Flavio Gutierrez a little bit from talking to him on emails and stuff. I think I had met his ex-wife previously, and she was the one that first told me about Flavio. And then eventually he got a hold of me and asked me to come down and play with his band. And then I came down and played with Igor Prado after that.
Yes. Igor Prado is a phenomenal.
He is. He's great. And I really enjoyed working in that band, especially when they had Rodrigo on bass and his brother, Igor's brother on drums. That was really a fun band to play with.
Yes. Our conversation is coming to the end, unfortunately, but I have to ask, could you play just a little bit for Brazilian lovers love blues?
Play some harmonica?
Yeah, just a little, please.
Sure. Yeah, hang on a minute. I'll just make something up if that's all right.
Yeah.
I kind of was fooling around with this yesterday.
Whoa! Thank you so much, Mr. Hummel. From the deep of my heart, thank you so much. Thank you so much. You are so kind and humble. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Hugo. I appreciate you having me on. Hello, Brazil.
Yeah. Hope you can come here, please.
Yeah. Get somebody to bring me over.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hummel, and please keep safe.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Hugo. Bye.
Bye, bye. É isso aí, galera. Mark Hummel na Quarentena Session do Coluna Blues Rock. Tivemos essa semana a live aí do Belo, a live da Anitta, a live do Puta que Pariu, mas só no Coluna Blues Rock a gente tem Mark Hummel. Só no Coluna Blues Rock a gente tem Mark Hummel tocando ao vivo blues. Porra! Segunda-feira eu falei que eu ia trazer novidades, né? Amanhã, Roberto Lessa diretamente de Fortaleza. Domingo, já que entrou o Jean, lá do Desert Club do Nordeste, agora esqueci, de Campina Grande. Domingo teremos o mestre Marcos Otaviano. Segunda-feira, tchan, 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 tchan. Segunda-feira teremos Quarentena Sessions com Peter Mad Cat Roof. O cara simplesmente já ganhou um Grammy de melhor disco de blues. O cara é uma lenda da gaita. Mais um gaitista aí para vocês. E quarta-feira, Quarentena Sessions, também com um americano. Quem? John Primer. Vejam bem, segunda-feira, Peter Mad Cat Roof. Quarta-feira, John Primer. Meu irmão, se liga. Só no Coluna Blues Rock tem essa porra. Então vamos divulgar. Segunda-feira, Peter Mad Cat Roof. Quarta-feira, John Primer. Só posso falar isso. Rapaz, espero que vocês estejam gostando do trabalho do Coluna Blues Rock nessa quarentena. Eu tenho me ferrado, tenho brigado com a esposa quase todo dia. O cachorro faz merda quando eu me tranco aqui. Não ganho um centavo, mas eu faço isso por amor à música. Por amor à música. É isso. Fui!